Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Kyusuk Yu, and are you enjoying my kimbap? Korean name is kimbap, and most American knows about as sushi, but it is long word. So sushi is means rice, rice over the sashimi, the low fishes. Yeah, and that is a kind of a low rice. So we call that his name is kimbap. And prior to introduce the kimbap, I want to introduce about seaweed. So when I came to United States, initially all Americans called seaweed everything as a seaweed, but in Korea we separate more type of seaweed and different name it has. This picture shows a generous Korean meal. We called that name baekbap, and American name platters. Yeah, rice and soup and side dishes. So most of the time we have a seaweed in the side dishes. Over here, there's fried thin crispy side seaweed, and its name is kim. Yes. And your lower kimbap is made with this kim. And are you enjoying the soup? So that soup makes with beer, the different seaweed, and that is scientific name, but very hard to pronounce it. So and asima, if you enjoy the snack, fried snack that's made with asima. Yeah, using asima, we can make a lot of food, like a snack that name is this name is buga, and we can also make a roll using asima. And udon that is very popular, already popular in United States. So that is soup. Both came from the asima and tuna. Yeah, this that is miok soup. So soup, the Korean name is gu. So miok gu. So we can make various miok gu with if we use the beef, that beef miok soup, and if we use the musel, the musel miok soup, and in this picture the clam is inside. So that is clam miok soup. And we can make a salad, meat salad, and that is raw fishes. We can wrap the raw fish with meal. It can reduce the smell, the fish smell. Yeah, popular food in Korea, the kimbap is made with kim, and inside there is no the principle in about inside ingredient. Whatever you want, avocado or cucumber, you can get it. And usually we enjoy the games left rices and using the as a snack, we can enjoy the game. Yeah, that is the next that slide for the next presenters. And in this time, I prepared for some a little demonstration how to make a kimbap. So in that kimbap will be different from outside kimbap. That will be very small, and I will show how to make it. And is there anyone wanted to make it with together?
Two volunteers.
Two volunteers. First, two volunteers. Hands up high.
No volunteers?
Okay.
No volunteers.
All right.
Just step up. Colleen, Bernardo also volunteered to give a cultural connection on France. So I'm happy there are two volunteers here. I hope we have more volunteers for future cultural connections.
You have to use a hand, so use the claw. This is key. So in the grocery store, the name is nori, sushi nori. Sushi nori here. That is Japanese word. So on my uh, this is white rice. So that white rice, the restaurant served is different one from this one. That is long grain. But in Korea, we eat the short grain rice. Short grain and a little more sticky. But that is nice. Yeah. And heavier than long grain. I marinate the sesame oil and sesame seed, a little salt. That is Bordeaux roots. Bordeaux roots. That is very strange in the United States, but that is very popular in Korea and Japan, and it is very helpful to beat cancer. Yeah. And have fun. And pickled radish. Yeah, yellow pickled radish. Yeah, we have three ingredients and rice. At first, we spread the rice on the skin. Okay? It's not small. It is medium size. Okay. A little rice and using hand and a little pussy.
Is there any prize for the winner?
No. We eat it. Yeah. We eat it. You can make your food. Oh, that's okay. About 3/4 or two-thirds of a space you like. No. Two-thirds or 3/4. Okay. Okay. And it's radish. So you like it?
Yeah.
It's good. And this one is soy sauce marinade Bordeaux root.
Can you say that name again? No, I can't.
Bordeaux, P-U-D-O-C-K. B-U-R.
Burdock.
Yeah, Bordeaux. Let's go here. And yeah, you can start at edge of and slightly push and low, push and low, push and low, push and low. So the moisture will come out from the lysis.
So we just have saying that prettier person make it but prettier.
And I didn't bring a knife today for security reason. This is campus.
So how do you squeeze that part?
Push and just place. So moisture will came down on the this sheet and this yeah. Not less powerful, less powerful. Like,
You need
and just place. So just place right there. And just place and a few seconds. Okay. Okay. Yeah, like this.
Beautiful.
It's not hard. You don't need to go to sushi restaurant from now. Yeah. Yay. Ready? Vivian, it's not safe.
Oh my god.
You guys in low.
Maybe because I put too much eggs.
Yeah. Thanks for my demonstration. Okay.
That's it?
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much.
And next presenter.
That's okay. So I think we are already behind the time, so while they're cleaning this one, we'll use every bit of time to finish our presentation in time. So yeah. So by the way, Dr. Yu spent quite a time to prepare this ingredient last night, and then making those cups early in the morning. So it looks very simple, but any Korean food, it takes quite time. Okay? So it's a lot of work. And another thing is in Korea, it's not common to see a man in his age cooking this well. I cannot survive without my wife. Okay, so you guys observe very unique experience today. So, okay. Another round of big applause. So while you're enjoying our food, I think time really flew, and it's basically we don't have time to present all our presentation. Okay, and by the way, before that, let me thank Jason, giving us the opportunity to represent Korea. And also, organizing all these, the events, very meaningful events throughout the year. So thank you very much. So as I said, because we don't have much time, so in Korean way, the most senior person here, unfortunately, I'm the oldest among the presenter here, so I have to make decision. This is not Korean way. This is old Korean way. Doesn't represent the present. Okay? So I take liberty to replace my talk with brief disclaimers. Okay? So when we are preparing this presentation, at least for me, it was so hard to capture, define Korea. Simply because Korea has a long, rich history. In addition to that, we have gone through drastic change during the modernization period. Okay? And after that, now, the current Korea is evolving in a crazy pace. Okay? So because of this dynamic nature, there is huge generation. Each generation experience totally different developmental stage. Okay? So there is this, because of this age gap, and there is also huge gender gap. Even this small group here in Worcester among these Korean, we may have totally different point of view, depending on the topic. Okay? So that is the situation. But I don't necessarily say this is a bad thing. I think it is also strength. For the same reasons we promote diversity and inclusion here at OSU, right? So, bottom line, the disclaimer. Some of the information we are providing can be outdated. I think I already gave you the one example, right? And then some of the information we are providing today can be misleading because we don't have much time to provide the background information. Okay? And some of the information we are providing today can be just personal point of view of each presenter. Okay? I really like to say that because I know this is being recorded. Okay? So with just that, that's my presentation, and we'll go to our next speaker, Dr. Park, and he'll present interesting aspect of Korea, and she may also challenge you with some quizzes. Okay?
All right. Hi. My name is Sunjung Park, and I go by Sunny around here because I want people to call me, not stumble on my name. So I've been here about 15 years already. I'm reaching to the point where I have spent same number of years in Korea and over here. So, but one of the most common question I got since came here was this: are you Chinese? Sometimes other Chinese colleagues would ask that, or sometimes I got American or different culture. And believe it or not, it was such a surprising question to me at first. I mean, I thought I could be nothing more than Korean, right? But then I realized if you look East Asia from far away, this is what you see. And I noticed that we do have a pretty strong neighbors, right? China, the size and the number of population, and Japan, and how they started interacting with a different culture way earlier than us. So I was thinking today maybe I can introduce a little bit about Korea in the context with our neighbors, all right? So in the following slides, I'll have one slide with a couple of pictures from Korea, China, and Japan. And I will ask you guys to pick one picture that belongs to Korea. Yep. Are you up for a challenge? Sure. And I will try to add a little more detail after those. So we'll start slow. All right. Flags from Korea, Japan, and China. Let's just number them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which one is from Korea? One. That was easy. You guys recognize this flag?
Yeah.
Yeah? Anyone?
North Korea?
Yep, it's North Korea. I don't think we'll talk about this much today, but another surprising question I received was once I got curious. Are you from North or South? To me, I mean, growing up in South Korea, I never thought I could look like North Korea. But anyway, that was the eye-opening experience too. So some of the Korean national symbols. You recognize this shape? Yep, but it's actually a map of Korean peninsula. But some people say it kind of looks like a pouncing tiger. And tiger is a beloved animal in Korea. Nowadays, it's hard to see the wild one, almost extinct. But you will see a lot of tigers in Korean folk tales and folk art. And most of the time, they're not scary. They're like friendly, naughty animal that comes along. And this is Korean national flower called mugunghwa. I think here it's known as a hibiscus. but it's a slightly different type. It's a lot smaller and has a mild color. And the last one is the dog from Korea. And a lot of people get confused with Japanese Shiba Inu, but this is called Jindoke. And to me, it looks a little taller and leaner than Shiba. And it's known to be very smart and very loyal to human family. Okay, this is the challenging parts of the quizzes. So these are composite pictures of good-looking people from Korea, China, and Japan. These are some of the celebrities. So I know means they're not ordinary people. Okay. So let's do number 1, 2, 3. Which one are Koreans? One. So one is Korean, Chinese, and Japanese. Why? I mean, honestly, with this picture, I don't have explanation. I don't know, maybe it's cosmetic or plastic surgery or.
We just can tell by first impression. Other than that, we don't have any explanation.
Yeah, sometimes I can tell by looking at how they dress, based on their body language, their hairdo. But I mean, honestly, just based on the faces, I have a hard time too. All right, so let's look at some ordinary people. 1, 2, 3. Hey, you guys are good. Number 2 is Korean, and Chinese, and Japanese. All right, so
We don't agree, okay?
I was thinking maybe we can go back in the time before the plastic surgery. Okay. These pictures are from around early 1900s. Let's do numbers 1 and 2. One. Yep, that's correct. Her name was Yu Kwan-sun. Yu is her last name, and the picture is from 1919. And actually, this picture is a prison mugshot. So, and she was 17 years old, and she led one of the campaigns against Japanese occupation. And she died in prison when she was 18 years old. We don't have time to go over the history, but if you're interested in New York, these pictures are from New York Times. They've been running a series of articles called Overlooked No More. So basically, a story of some of the extraordinary women in history. And they have an article about Yu Kwan-sun, so check it out. So I had to do this. I don't know whether it's the easiest or hardest. Okay. Oh, and by the way, if you're not familiar with pop culture, these are girls singing group idols. So let's do number 1, 2, 3. One. Actually, one. This group is from Korea, China, and Japan. But honestly, I don't follow pop culture much, so to me, I'm blind with these pictures too. So, I think that was the hardest part of the quizzes. Yep. That's right. 안녕하세요 all says hello. And some of my friends notice the first thing they notice is they see a lot of geometrical shapes in our written language, like a lot of circles. And compared to Chinese, Chinese has a meaning in each letters, but Korean is more of a based on phonics. So it just tells you how it sounds like. And I think Korean is a bit unique because we know who invented the language. So this is King Sejong from early 1400. I wouldn't say he invented language from scratch. There was already way of speaking there, but there was a system for written language. So him and his scholars got together and came up with our Korean language. So these are some of the Korean alphabets. We have consonants and vowels. You mix up a couple of them and make a sound. So basically all based on phonics. And just a couple more pictures of written Korean. So since we talked about language, let's talk about personal name. We have three names. 1, 2, 3. Can you pick which one is Korean name?
Wow.
Maybe that was too easy. So all these are written in English way, Jae, Moon, but actually the last name is Moon. And in Korean way, we always put the family name first. To us, it's not last name. Moon Jae, it's the name. Usually, you will see one syllable first. The family name, usually two syllables name. And one thing that gives you that it's Korean name is the last name. I picked a little rare example, but in Korea we have only handful of last names. And if you look at this, the last name Kim, over 20% of people will have this last name. And my last name is Park, and there's about 85% of people. So that's kind of like a giveaway. All right. So how can I call you? I remember when I first came to States, one of my advisors' name was Ed Bauer, and I wasn't sure how to say his last name because I was going to call him Dr. Bauer. So I asked him, "How can I call you?" And he goes, "Oh, call me Ed." And I tried it, but whenever I try to just call his human name, it feels like I'm doing something very rude, impolite. So in Korea, oh, another thing. I know it's kind of rare to ask someone, how old are you here? But among Koreans, I still ask them, how old are you? It's actually one of the first questions I would ask. Or I will sometimes ask indirectly, asking them, in which year did you go to college? Kind of speculate. And age doesn't matter a lot because our language changes. So in formal setting, if it's someone senior, I'll only call him by last name and job title. Right? So if I call over here, I'll call him Professor Lee or Dr. Lee. Never use his given name.
Some young people does, okay? So it's changing.
But if it's someone junior, I'll sometimes use given name and put a little, how can I say, formal word. So I'll call, if I'm using my name, Sanjung Si. Si means to be more a little polite. But if you get to know people, they become part of your extended family. You guys watch ever Korean movies, Korean dramas? Yeah?
What channel are they on?
I have to write them. And you will hear a lot of these words in those. And sometimes my friends ask me, Oppa, Nuna, and they ask me what they mean. Literally, Oppa means just the older brother. If you're a woman and you will call Oppa your older brother. But even though it's someone completely out of your family, you get to know them, they become part of your family. You just call them brother, uncle, auntie. And if I see an elderly lady on the street, I need to say something, I'll just call and say, "Excuse me, grandma," or grandpa. I think I will skip through this since there's more talk of food. And the first table is from Korea. And by no means, I don't eat like this at home. It will take tons of hours to get this done. And if I have two things on the table, my kids are content. So traditional clothing. Let's do numbers. 1, 2, 3. One. Yeah, that's pretty easy. And this is called hanbok. And you will see a lot of colors in clothing nowadays. But I've been told that back in the time we used to wear a lot of whites without dyed clothes. And these are some of the more traditional clothing, hanbok. Do you guys ever plan to visit Korea? If you do, please check out some of the palace. I've been told that they do have a clothing rental system nowadays. So you can rent Korean traditional clothing and roam around and look at the palace and take a picture. So before I wrap up the talk, I wanted to introduce some of the books from Korea. I'm really happy to tell you about this, and there's more and more Korean books available in English translation. I mean, before that, people were saying Korean is too hard to translate into English. It's too different. But there's tons available out. I don't know, have you guys heard about her name, Han Gang? She became famous by receiving a Man Booker Prize just a couple years ago. And it's her book called Human Acts. Actually, it's funny because the book is about the democratic uprising that happened about 38 years ago, right today. So could show you that stage. And these two books are from Korean American writers, and they write in English. And this one, he talks about orphan out of Korean War. And all these are kind of like historical fictions, so it's not like a real history. But I think it's a great way to get to know the culture by reading fiction, like to see how people think and feel. And some more books from Korean authors. All right. That's all I have, and I'll pass to the next speaker.
Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoy the food. I'm supposed to spend 15 or 20 minutes, but it's already 55, 12:55. I hope you stay and don't leave. Okay, I'm supposed to talk about agriculture and food and restaurants in South Korea. This is not related to any science. Just want to try to introduce what we have in relation to, according to food that we have in South Korea. And the goal of this presentation is at the end of the presentation, you may get familiar with some agriculture or food that we have in South Korea. And maybe you can think we want to go and try this kind of food in the future. Okay, already previous speakers covered this introduction about Korea, but a little bit more. So this is United States, a pretty large country. Can you find South Korea? It's in green. This very small thing is kind of dot here. But you probably don't get it how small it is. So I'm trying to make a comparison between Ohio and South Korea. So Ohio, the size of the country area is almost 45,000 square miles. South Korea is a little bit smaller than that. But population is 4 times higher. Okay? But this is not a problem. The real problem is this. So the capital city is Seoul, South Korea, which is this small yellow dot spot. Okay, the size of land is 234 square miles. The
population is 10 million people, which means 1/5 of people in South Korea live in capital city. So what kind of issue can you expect?
Pollution.
And traffic. I know some Worcester faculty always complain about traffic problem in Columbus in the morning and in the afternoon. That's actually not a problem. The real problem is you have to go and see. But we have serious problem, but we have good public transportation and we use it and we can go anywhere without traffic problem. So food, we have to, because we have a lot of people in cities, we have to provide good food to that lot of people, especially in cities, right? So food industry and restaurant industry, those are very heavily improved and developed in South Korea. So if you have a chance to go to South Korea, especially in big cities, you will see a lot of restaurants and all different kinds of food. It's not just the Korean traditional food. You can see all Western country food and other Asian food. You can find everything. So what I want to introduce today is just Korean food, traditional food. As Dr. Bach and you introduced, this is kind of what we eat traditionally. We have bowl of rice and a lot of side dishes. We share those side dishes with other people. So as you can see, we eat a lot. Seafood, vegetables, and meat, we have everything. What we eat is just like what you eat. Food production in South Korea, as I said, South Korea is a very small country. And unfortunately, 2/3 of the land is mountains. The mountain is not a good land to produce food, right? So arable land is only 22% in total land in South Korea. With this small land, we produce a lot of different kinds of food. Those are the top 25 foods that we produce in South Korea. Okay? When you look at the food listed here, as I mentioned, what we eat is just what you eat, right? It's all the same. But only difference is which one is what we prefer, we produce more in South Korea. So when you look at the top number 1 food that we produce in South Korea is rice. So probably it's the same for most of countries in Asia. 25% of food produced in South Korea is rice, which is huge amount. Okay, with this, Korean people heavily rely on rice as a main food. So I'd like to talk about a little bit of rice production because rice is a main food in South Korea. So this is a picture from 1960 or 1970. So right after Korean War, which is 1950, 1955, everything was destroyed. We didn't have any engineering or technologies or machines to produce food. So everything was done by human. So because of that, the production was very low and efficiency was very low. But the economy in South Korea grows very quickly. With that, agriculture technology also grows very fast. And we learned a lot from our neighbor country, how we produce our crops more efficiently. And also we developed our own technology to produce rice, especially. And this is an example. This is the planting rice seedling. We usually, most of people are going to show it in a minute. We use humans by themselves plant rice seedling every spring. But some people, we have those kind of machine available and that improve efficiency of production of rice. So what I want to show is still, this is a picture from 1990 and 2000. So which means still present days, a lot of producers manually plant their rice seedling to produce rice. But I'm pretty sure most of producers use machine to harvest rice. But still, people, they just manually plant the rice seedling. Why is that? It's pretty inefficient. It looks like pretty inefficient. Why do we still use the human power to plant the rice seedling? Probably this is one of the reasons. This is comparison between USA and South Korea. Agricultural land in USA is 44%. In South Korea, it's only 17%. But when you look at the agricultural population, USA population is less than 2% in total. So they miss a lot of land, but less number of people in agriculture. That means average cultivation acreage per producer is 80 acres. But in South Korea, agricultural population is 6%. When you compare with the other developed countries, this is too much, too high. And as a result, we have small land and relatively high populated agriculture people. Average cultivation acreage per producer is less than 2 acres. Okay, it's very small per family. So as a result, they cannot use machine to produce rice. But it's way expensive to have that kind of machine for every family. But I saw that some villages purchase some that kind of machine and share it. There's some other way to do in South Korea. But still, what I want to point out is this family, the rice production is very small size, so they don't have to use machine. But as I pointed out, they use the machine to harvest rice production. So still, a lot of scientists are trying to improve the efficiency and this kind of management to produce more rice and more efficient way. This is the, even though we probably rice production is not quite efficient, but still, since 1990, rice self-sufficiency in South Korea is almost 100%, because we use most of land for rice production. But it depends on weather in each year. It goes up and down, but it's generally 90 to 100%. But maybe we may have a big crisis in the future in producing rice because of climate change. It's getting hotter and hotter, right? Same here. So this is a result from the simulation. The blue bar representing the self-sufficiency without climate change in the future. So self-sufficiency rate is pretty consistent. But if we see the change of climate in the future, the self-sufficiency will go down to 50%. Then because Koreans rely on rice heavily, it will be a big crisis in South Korea. But scientists are working on it. Nutrients. Compared with corn, it contains high carbohydrate and little bit of protein and fat. Because it contains a lot of carbohydrate, it provides rice is a good source of energy for South Korea. But it otherwise, it contains a lot of carbohydrate. It provides a lot of calories, right? So typically, we have breakfast and lunch and dinner. We have 3 bowls of rice. Each bowl has about 200, 300 grams of rice. It provides 300 calories. And compared with fast food, it is the same as the calorie from a slice of pizza and a little bit lower than burger. But as I pointed out at the beginning, we eat rice with a lot of side dishes, right? So it actually has more calories. So probably as similar with the calories from burgers. In South Korea, we also have human health problem, just like other developed country, obesity. So many people try to change their eating pattern or type of food from rice to more vegetables or more meat. So this is all about the rice that I prepared. And I want to introduce a little bit of animal production as well. So the graph on the right, this is beef, pork, and chicken. So we eat beef, those are the meat that we eat in South Korea, mostly. And as the same as other developing countries, the consumption per person is gradually going up. But when you compare the consumption of meat in the United States, this is comparison. And American people eat chicken a lot, and then beef and pork is about the same. But in South Korea, pork is number one, and then chicken, and then beef. Okay? If I give you pork and beef, which one are you going to pick to eat for free? Beef. It's the same. If I ask Korean people, they're going to pick beef probably. But why we don't eat beef much? More expensive. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. So beef production, this is the pictures from probably right after Korean War in 1960 or 1970. Mostly we use the cattle just for labor. We use them to carry heavy stuff, and we use them to cultivate our land, to grow our crops. But now, we have a very good system. We learned a lot from developed countries, just like the United States. The system and management is technology. Those are all just up there. So production rate and system efficiency are very good. But we have, I didn't mention it, Hanu is the Korean native breed. That means it's different breed from Angus that you guys always say, right? We grow most of, this is the breed that we raise in South Korea and eat as for meat. Then why is it so expensive? So it's expensive, but why is it so expensive?
A little land.
A little what?
It's the animal that needs the most land, that you don't have the most land.
Kind of right, but that's not the major reason. So probably the first reason that I want to show is the quality of the meat. Because genetically, Hanu produce better meat. So quality is kind of not always, but it's almost marveling. This is the meat from Angus, and this is the best marveling meat from Angus. This is USA prime grade. When you look at the grade for Hanu, this best one is priced between number grade 4 and 6. So Hanu produce better quality of meat. So that's why it's really expensive. It's like probably you have heard about the Japanese cattle. They are also very expensive because they produce better quality meat. So Hanu also produce better quality of meat compared to other the species of cattle. Another reason is, as I mentioned, South Korea is a very small country, and in there, agricultural land is also very small. So those agricultural land is used to produce human food, not animal feed. We don't have any land available to produce animal feed. So 9% of feed that we are feeding to animals are imported from other countries, China and United States and Brazil. So that means the feed cost is very expensive to raise animals. That's why meat is also very expensive. So next slide, I'm going to talk about a little bit of restaurants in South Korea. But before that, okay, I have this good quality of meat, and I give it to you for free. So how are you going to cook this meat to eat? Which method is the best cooking method to eat this good quality of meat? Barbecue, right? Right? Barbecue. Oh, we eat raw meat as well, but barbecue might be the way that you have to cook the good quality of meat. Steak, like. The problem is, as I showed, we have a lot of people in the cities in South Korea, right? It's very high populated city. So the only the way that we can have this many people in small city is this apartment. Apartments are the only way to we have everyone can stay in small area. But the problem is there's no space to barbecue in apartment, right? Can you live without barbecue? Probably I can't. So that's why the restaurant industry has been improved a lot, developed a lot. And as I mentioned, these are the pictures from some street in Seoul. You can see a lot of restaurants here. And most popular restaurant is the restaurant they provide meat, and also they can we can do barbecue inside the restaurant. Okay, just like this. So when you enter that kind of restaurant, you can see all different number of tables, and each table has a setup of kind of a stove for barbecue. So as you can see, each table has something, and all the smoke from cooking just exhausted through this exhausting pipe. So you can just order meat, and you can get families and friends get together and order meat, and they provide a lot of side dishes, and there are a lot of other foods as well. And advantage of this restaurant is you can order a little bit of different cuts of beef or pork, something like that, and you can taste everything. The good news is, this is the most popular, one of the popular restaurants in South Korea. Good news is, you can enjoy this kind of restaurant in Ohio as well. Is it good news? So I brought some information. This is one restaurant in Columbus, and this is another restaurant in Cleveland. It's quite pricey, I have to admit that. But if you go there, you will enjoy all different cuts of meat, and they also provide a lot of side dishes. And side dishes are free, and you can ask them to refill, so they can refill as much as you want.
What's the name of the restaurant in Cleveland?
This is Miga. Yeah, this is the address. So I hope in the future you have a chance to try. Okay, thank you very much. I think
We would all like to say, Sahamnida, thank you to everyone that presented today, and then they not only shared their wisdom, but their food. I hope everybody signed up, because that's how we pay for these. And I will be talking to Dr. Charles Lee about the possibility of emailing you his presentation that we did not have time for. We hope to have a speaker for June, but we are not sure about that yet. But we'll also be having our attendee who just left, who is still with us, Andres Sanabria from Paraguay, will be talking about his country this summer as well. So whether you want to present with your countrymen and countrywomen or alone, please talk to me. We're always looking for speakers. And we will close by taking the traditional group photo up front. So if you have time, please come up. Thank all 44 of you who showed up, and thank you.